Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matrix Live Season 11, Episode 5, where I'm here with Keegan. Hello, Keegan.
Hello, how are you, Matthew?
I'm doing great. It's been a wonderful week, hasn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah, never the best. I had a particularly stressed message from Keegan the other night, about midnight, saying, I just need to let you know this week has been really, really stressful. So I'm sorry, Keegan. We are here to talk about Operation Hydra, which is the code name that we haven't actually been banging on about of the many-headed monster that we've been tackling over the last couple of months to try to improve the state reset situation in Matrix. What are state resets, Keegan?
State resets are when your room state rolls back to an earlier point in time for some reason. For some reason that usually this could happen in a case like a revocation. So if someone got banned and they concurrently had set the room name, you obviously need to roll back the room name change. But state resets are effectively where this rollback procedure happens despite there not being some form of revocation like a ban.
So it's basically when the room state corrupts. Everyone, I suspect, listening to this will have seen them at some point. They used to be very prevalent back in the early days of Matrix. We then improved them a lot in State Res V2, which was launched back in 2019, I believe, in June as part of Matrix 1.0. Which at least fixed the worst attacks. However, as the years went by, it became apparent that there were still scenarios where they could kick in, and that is what Keegan has been working on alongside Dennis and myself and Eric and a whole bunch of other folks, either from the Element kind of server backend team or the Matrix Foundation security team. And I guess I'm getting involved with my Matrix Spec Core team lead hat on. So we're talking about it today because we've got to the point in the project of actually being able to ship some fixes. But it is complicated because the fixes that need to be shipped are in the protocol itself. So this is the first time that we've had to do effectively a coordinated upgrade of the protocol since Matrix 1.0, where we did a couple of breaking changes like I know we used to support self-signed TLS certificates, and instead we told every server in the world that they had to change to use real X509 CA authorized TLS certificates. And I guess more recently we had the whole authenticated media upgrade, which is something of a breaking change too. But this one is significant because it has security implications. And honestly, it's been very tricky to figure out the correct choreography for announcing this. So we started off about a month ago now, almost precisely to the day, a month ago, going and contacting all of the known production server implementers and saying, hey folks, look, if you have a server that is live and running on an untrusted network like the public Matrix Federation, and it speaks Federation and it does state resolution, you're going to need to make some changes. And we asked folks to accept a embargo, which means that they then work on implementing those changes effectively in private because of the security aspects involved, and because the changes on the server side are quite substantial. In practice, we can talk about the various different moving parts that go into this, but happy to say that everyone we contacted has been very professional and accepted the terms of the embargo, and so there has been this room of server implementers working away over the last month, sharing notes and collaborating on getting the necessary changes made on the server. Now, the controversial thing is that we basically forgot that there would be some impact on the client side of things, because the focus of the project has been so much on fixing the server-to-server API and improving federation and the fairly interesting changes needed on the server to do that. First of all, we were trying to avoid there being any client changes at all. As the project evolved, they did start to creep in, but it was kind of almost sort of case by case, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, case by case, and some of these changes were things that we didn't think would affect clients at all, but it turns out they did affect clients, which we did not anticipate.
I mean, a great example is that one of the changes coming up is switching what room IDs look like to be the event ID of the create event in that room. And this is, we decided that this is sufficiently dramatic and also sufficiently non-security sensitive in some ways that we could release the MSC ahead of time. So it's MSC 4291, I think. And that got published a few weeks ago, or about a week ago now. And the whole point is to make sure that each room has a unique room ID that is linked to its create event, which is very desirable in terms of mitigating attacks where you could end up with non-unique rooms flying around the place. It's very similar to the change that we made back in Matrix 1.0 when we added in event IDs becoming the hash of their events, where previously you could come up with any event ID you liked and you put a domain on it, and the problem is that letting the clients select their own event IDs was servers selecting their own event IDs meant that servers could maliciously create clashing event IDs and all hell would break loose. In retrospect, we're stupid for not thinking of room IDs at the same time back then. But hey, 6 years later, better late than never, we are making that change. But it does mean that the format of room IDs change everywhere. And I can literally remember talking to Keegan about this a few weeks ago when we made that change, saying, should we do it? How bad can it be? And at the time, it was a fairly arbitrary, hey, this is a good idea to get rid of the domain because it's not needed anyway, it's confusing, it's redundant information and all the rest of it. Then we dug a bit more and discovered that it's also important from a security perspective to get rid of the domain. And so
we flip-flopped a bit on that, didn't we? Because we decided, we should get rid of them because they're not very useful. And it's like, some things actually do still need the domain, so maybe we should keep the domain. But then it's like, actually, no, there are security reasons why we don't want the domain.
So that's a good example of something where we flip-flop back and forth, eventually ended up making what turns out to be a surprisingly dramatic change, didn't realise the impact, and now, having gone and pre-announced the upcoming change on Wednesday, we've got a lot of feedback from the wider community. And this is across the whole spectrum. It's not just trust and safety folks. It's client implementers and bots and bridges and even distributions. We've discovered some people who are assuming and asserting the shape of room IDs in their Ansible playbooks and their Helm charts and their Terraform scripts, which is terrifying. But it just turns out that people have been a lot more enthusiastic in assuming the shape of room IDs than we ever thought would be the case, particularly given we've always tried to make clear that the domain name in a room ID is an opaque identifier. It's not something you should parse, it's not something that you should root on, but empirically lots and lots and lots of people have said, oh, look, there's a colon there, I'll split on it, and I will assert that it has a domain on the end. So we've ended up in a bit of an awkward situation here, where we gave a fairly aggressive timeline for warning people that they needed to upgrade their servers in a week. Well, basically, so we announced on Wednesday, and we said that we would pre-disclose or by providing server implementations that work on the Tuesday and like next Tuesday, and then I think on the Friday we will go completely public with all of the details of the security fixes that have landed. And that was based entirely on the idea of how long it would, well, basically giving server admins enough notice to upgrade their servers to know that there is a important upgrade coming and get ready to upgrade when the patches come out on Tuesday, and then a few days for people to do so and then use the new distribution. We basically didn't factor in the time that would be needed for testing clients and making these changes. So sorry about that. I take full responsibility for not thinking it through sufficiently. Thank you for everybody for the constructive feedback that we've had on the needing more time to work on this. For the less constructive feedback, please consider that we're human and try to be nice to us sometimes. And the idea, therefore, is that we're going to extend the disclosure window in order to give folks a chance to upgrade or fix their clients, test their clients, and get a lot more comfortable with the client-side changes that are needed. And what we're going to do is to shift the pre-disclosure window to, let me get this right, Monday, August the 11th. So that's basically shifting it by 3 weeks or from where it was before. So going from a 1 week disclosure to a 4 week disclosure. And then the server releases will be on Monday, August the 11th. And then we will, on the Thursday, so 3 days later, 4 days later, depending how you count, we'll go and actually disclose the security issues. So this feels fair, frankly, because the server implementers had 4 weeks to go and do the work needed on their side. It means now that there is 4 weeks available to client implementers to do the work needed on their side. Although
we haven't spoken about the other client side affecting changes, right?
Oh yeah, we'll go through them in a minute. That's okay. Keegan, that's why you're here, right?
Sure, yeah.
We'll. The good news is that the client-side changes are a lot simpler than the server-side ones. But as we said, there are a lot more clients than servers, and as we said, we're seeing room IDs being parsed in the most crazy places. I'm expecting our office coffee machine to stop working because of the room ID change. We basically want to veer on the conservative now and give people a chance to test. Talking of which, for testing, we have opened up beta.matrix.org as a Synapse implementation that speaks the new Hydra room version. It's currently prefixed, not that anything should care about that, so that people can actually test against real rooms of the new flavor ahead of time on the client side. But yes,
so the default room version on that server is the Hydra room version, for clarity.
Precisely. So if you want to test your client, head over to beta.matrix.org, create an account, and start seeing what breaks. What will break, Keegan?
Many things. Sadly, it is not just the room IDs that we've been speaking about. But obviously, room IDs is a good place to start because if you pass the domain of the room ID, because you have a config file that applies a regular expression or some sort of validation to a room ID type, or you've got a message permalink parser, which needs to pull out the room ID, or you need to know the room creator's domain for routing or for moderation, then you'll be affected and you'll need to change your code. There are other changes involved, though, involving power levels, and specifically the creator power levels. So historically, the content.users map in the power level event contains a user ID to power level mapping, and that tells you who the moderators and admins are in a room. With the changes that are coming in Hydra, you also need to consider the create event of the room in addition to the power level event, because the creator of the room will have an infinite power level, will have more power level than anyone inside the content.users block in the power level event. And that is immutable. So the creator has no means of getting rid of that power that's granted to them. And they cannot make anyone else directly a creator in the power level event as well. So in order to so the thing that's going to break with that change is things like if you create rooms with the power level content override, or you set initial state, any of those two keys, then you may be affected because the content.users map cannot have the creator because the creator has an infinite power level, and specifying the creator again in this map would be wrong and confusing. If you calculate who an admin or a moderator is in a room client side, so maybe you gray out buttons if you're not an admin, or you show some extra buttons to admins, or you ignore events that are sent by non-admins or moderators like bots, then you will be affected because the creator will not be in the content.users block. So you'll need to now look at the create event, and you'll need to look at the sender key of the create event, in addition to a new field, which is content.additional creators. This is in the pre-disclosure announcement already. So hopefully, if you've read the pre-disclosure, this is not news. And the other final change, which we also mentioned in the pre-disclosure, is that room upgrades, we're removing one of the fields in the create event of the upgraded room. So when you upgrade a room, there's usually a predecessor key, and that has a room ID and an event ID. The event ID will not be there when you upgrade to the Hydra room version. So yeah, if you care and you read the event ID field in the predecessor block, then you need to bear in mind that that is now optional. But if none of those things have, if you're saying no, these things don't matter to me, then you probably will not be affected by the changes in Hydra.
Yeah, I mean, you said there were a lot of changes, but in practice, it's very small relative to, I don't know, server changes. It's a bit unfortunate that we haven't found a way to do it in a backwards compatible fashion, and I've been the one bugging Keegan and everyone the most, saying, oh, are you sure that there isn't a way where we can fake the power levels event so that it still looks like it used to and have a compatibility shim effectively? I think it's compelling not to have a hack there in the end, and it's not immediately clear what that hack would even look like, hence trying to rip the plaster off and shift to a sensible protocol shape that reflects the new power level semantics. Talking of which, the new power level semantics are a little hard to talk about because the full explanation of why we've made these changes is embargoed. But the end result is still that you end up with the room creator being a super user, being like root. And we think this is definitely net positive. Like the number of disasters we've seen over the years where an admin goes and gives another admin rights and then realizes they can't revoke the admin rights is huge. Now, my favorite example is Blue Sky, which started off on Matrix with its community on Matrix, trying to do the right thing and do a decentralized thing. And then Jay Graber gave admin to a whole bunch of folks, and then later on needed to revoke admin and gave up and went to Discord. And that is why Blue Sky uses Discord as its community platform right now. And there have been a whole bunch of other instances, like people who accidentally demote themselves and then realize that no one is in control of the room, and all hell breaks loose, and you have an unmoderatable room for the rest of the time. And there are a whole bunch of other similar nastinesses. So, whilst it's a opinionated solution, and there are very good reasons why we've chosen this opinionated solution to give the creator super user access, I think it's net positive. And what you need to know is that if you want to relinquish that power, that privilege, what you would do is to go and give another user permission to upgrade the room. And the way we do that now going forwards will be a higher power level of 150 that you require to go and upgrade rooms. And people don't have it by default. Like if I created a room, I invite Keegan to it, I might give him admin power at 100, I will have effective infinite power as the creator, but that doesn't mean that Keegan can hijack the room by upgrading it and then being, haha, I'm the new creator. Instead, I would have to explicitly, effectively hand over the reins to him by saying, look, Keegan, I love you very much, and you're getting 150, and good luck, we're all counting on you. And then I would quit or something, and he would be able to upgrade the room to a new one where he is now the creator. Also worth noting that the creator privileges are not centralized on a single user. If you want to have multiple creators, for instance, in a DM where we are all created as equals, and nobody should be more equal than others, then a DM, for instance, on Hydra rooms has both parties set as creators so that they can't go and redact each other or kick each other out or unilaterally, I guess they can unilaterally upgrade the room on each other, but you don't have a strange asymmetry there. And likewise, if you're in an organization where you really want to share multilateral ownership of a room, you can by having multiple creators from the outset.
I think this is something which we will need to clarify in the pre-disclosure, because there are some additional ways that clients, rather than just thinking about compatibility, does my client break? Obviously, this is effectively a new feature that we're introducing. So how can clients support said feature of adding multiple creators? We haven't disclosed that, so we should mention that.
Yeah, for sure. We should, we'll go and update the pre-disclosure after recording that, probably in the race window between uploading to YouTube and everybody watching it on Matrix Live. So Kim was very helpful. Mr. Haha links himself in providing a huge number of bullet points of things which are gathered from the community that would be worth touching on. I've been deliberately dipping into it, but I almost wonder whether we should go through the list together and check that we've covered the stuff that has come up, unless there's anything else you were burning to say at this point, Keegan.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, so first of all, what's going on? We've already said. Homeowners and packages. What, as a server admin, should you plan to do? So on August the 11th, the idea is that as many server implementations as possible will have updated, will have basically prepared security releases that include the new Room version. And so as a server admin, you should upgrade your server.
It's worth clarifying at that point that shouldn't break anything from the server admin's perspective. It doesn't upgrade anything. It's literally just allowing people to upgrade.
Upgrade rooms, you mean?
To upgrade rooms, yes.
Hopefully you've upgraded your server when you upgraded the server.
Yes.
But the rooms will stay as they are. And I strongly suspect that people's servers might not be creating rooms by default as Hydra at first, just to give everyone enough time to speak the new Room version. What do you need to consider besides just updating my home server? Probably not much.
As a server admin, no, just update the server.
Which home servers are confirmed to release updates? I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot look into the minds of all of the server admins out there or server implementers out there and predict who is actually going to have their releases ready for D-Day. A good question is Dendrite, where right now we don't have the fixes in place. Hopefully the extended pre-disclosure might give us time to work on it. I will
probably be working over the weekend to try to actually add support for Dendrite.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No. Dendrite has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, well, Dendrite does still live, and it came back from the dead once, and at this rate, it's going to be the most amazing zombie project ever since Servo. Then, room upgrades for community leaders. What should community organisers do about room upgrades? I mean, this is probably the question that has come up the most in terms of people trying to plan how to do these upgrades, particularly as the semantic of the upgrade is slightly changed, because whoever does the upgrade will now become creator of the new room. First of all, there's a big question of how urgent is it to upgrade. Now, the attacks which we are mitigating are not critical. They're not going to run malicious code on your computer. They're not going to steal data or breach data. They could cause state resets of flavors. And, we already see rooms suffering from state resets today too. So in terms of urgency, I don't consider this a drop everything, everyone needs to upgrade every room ever immediately. First of all, the only impacted rooms are public ones on an untrusted network, where you may have malicious servers participating in them, which does count out a lot of rooms. Like if you have a DM that nobody knows about between two trusted servers, then you're fine in there, and you shouldn't need to worry about them.
I will just interject to clarify that you've said the right thing, but you say malicious servers, and it is servers. So if you have a spam account created on matrix.org or on some other openly accessible server, but you trust the server, you just don't trust one of the users on that server, that's fine, because you need the malicious server. Malicious users, that's not an issue.
Yep, for sure. So practically, I reckon that we'll see the Matrix Foundation updating its public rooms within a week or so of this to give people a chance to upgrade first. Obviously, if we see state resets accelerating, then that might in turn accelerate. But I really am not expecting this to be you have to do it on D-Day immediately, otherwise you're screwed or everything's going to go up in flames. And I'm sorry that we didn't make that clear in the initial pre-disclosure statement. Changes in the new room model. Do I need to redesign my power level model for my community? Well, we've kind of already spoken through this. One question that keeps coming up, though, is what do you do if the creator disappears or if their home server disappears?
This is why the power level 150 exists, right? So the idea is that you can have many admins and you have a trusted subset of admins who you're happy to give the reins to should your server disappear.
Yeah.
This is why we have power level 150 and we've changed the default to send tombstones to be 150.
I guess one consideration, though, is that if you're going and upgrading all of your rooms, as, I don't know, Mozilla or somebody, first of all, you do need to do the upgrade from somebody who can then be trusted to have absolute power in that room going forwards. So that's probably a moderation bot, ideally, or some other role user. And then, this whole question of handing over to other people, the classic problem being that the creator doesn't think to hand over the reins before they go missing in action. Frankly, that's a problem we have today a lot with admins going missing, and the fact that it's now a creator going missing makes it less likely because it's just typically one creator who has to disappear rather than, actually, I guess it's less impacting because at least the admins can still hang around and do their thing even if the creator has disappeared. I guess there's the risk that you'll never be able to upgrade that room unless the creator did explicitly delegate that permission to people before they leave. That's the change that will need to be considered.
I also feel that for the creator is gone scenario, often what matters in some ways is the aliases, because people discover your public rooms via aliases. So in those scenarios, you could point the room at a different alias.
Yeah, although the UX for doing that for a normal person is challenging.
Sure, but we're hoping anyway that this was a fairly infrequent occurrence anyway, right? So if you do need to perform that operation, it's not going to be many people needing to do that.
For sure. Then how to do the upgrade. We are not going to narrate to you how to do room upgrades in every Matrix client known to man right now. What we will do, though, is when we come to do the full announcement in a couple of weeks, go into a blog post to really explain what the mechanics will be here and the pitfalls to look at. And the classic pitfalls are things like remembering to point your integrations and bots at the new room ID, particularly if they either don't follow upgrades or if they don't know that the room upgrade happened in the first time. And spaces as well. Yep, where we are missing the UI in many clients, like Element, for instance, for being able to upgrade spaces. So that's part of the please test your clients in the next 3-4 weeks work that has to be done to do as much as we can to improve the user experience around room upgrades. And in our ideal world, room upgrades would be transparent. And I know that there are some Matrix clients like Trixnity and Tammy from Connect2X, which do have a nice stitch the timeline together so the users don't even realize the room has been upgraded. If that was the standard for everybody, then we would be in a much better place. Also, frankly, giving a mass upgrade button to the server admin. So if we ever do have to have a drop everything synchronized upgrade, then rather than making it the poor confused room admin's problem, giving the server admin the ability to somehow automate that could also be a useful thing. But I'm not expecting us to totally re-engineer room upgrades in the next few weeks. But it's certainly got higher up the to-do list after the adventures of Hydra to date. A lot more room upgrade questions, which again I'm going to punt until the actual release. Room V12 for implementers. Is your Matrix project affected? Yes, if you're a server talking Federation, then from actually talking the new room version, your project will be affected. In terms of what you need to do, hopefully you're already talking to us about it. If you're hearing this for the first time, then please get in contact with security@matrix.org and say, hello, you never heard of me, but I'm doing a production Matrix server that speaks Federation. Please can I find out what the details are so I can get implementing this. Yeah, and that's basically answering that side. And then further info, where can I ask more about this? I guess a good place would be Office of the Spec Core Team room, which has an alias of the form #office speccoreteam.kernelmatrix.org, I think. And this in more detail and more will probably be released, nicely written up on D-Day, right, says Kim in a slightly passive-aggressive manner. And yes, we will produce a written version of this FAQ so that people don't have to transcribe our improvised answers here on D-Day, so that on August the 11th, so that there is a bit more context and people know what needs to be done. I have a feeling we've completely mangled that. What do you think?
I think it was fine.
Okay. I'm worried that we haven't spoken through the nature of the changes enough, but then it's tricky when it's embargoed.
I mean, we spoke a lot about room IDs, and that's like,
yeah.
it is breaking change, but it came across as if that was the main breaking change.
Okay, so we've done room IDs, we've done creator power level, we've done the tombstoning stuff.
We've not really spoken about room upgrades though, because in general, like for some users or some developers, this will be the first time there's a mass room upgrade, and they just don't handle them because they've never needed to handle them.
Well, this would be a great time, client developers, both to learn about room upgrades, implement them, and also test against beta.matrix.org to see what happens when you upgrade a normal room, which I guess you would need to create manually at an older version and then upgrade through to version 12. I mean, it's not a hard idea, and in fact, it's one of the best bits of Matrix in some perverse way, in that it allows us to ratchet the protocol forwards like this. I saw somebody from XMPP land being very obnoxious about the fact that Matrix has room upgrades, therefore it's crap, whereas I would really argue that room versioning is really nice. It allows us to change the format of our identifiers without breaking existing conversations, etc. And you basically put a tombstone event into a room that points it to the new room that speaks the new protocol version and the new room version, and that's it. But it was only added in element X in the last couple of weeks, for instance, because I guess we knew that this was coming and wanted to make sure that the client could follow them and process them correctly. And yeah, with a big wave of people upgrading in the near future to version 12, this would be a good time to consider it. Sorry for everybody who has been stressed by the initial short deadline that we gave out. I'm sorry that we didn't think through the client impact sufficiently, and it has caused some mad rushes in various, particularly also for communities who would need to make major changes for the power level semantics in order to upgrade. We have listened to the feedback, as you've seen. We've shifted gear completely to having the 4-week window rather than a 1-week window, which, particularly as it's the summer, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, and lots of folks are away, it gives us more breathing room, and we can do this more deliberately and carefully and with less stress. Also, frankly, the security impact is significant in that it really fixes a long-lived problem in Matrix, or at least it helps fix it. But this isn't a critical issue. I guess in a different world we might have just dumped it out there and said, hey, everybody upgrade to V12 when you can. But I think that may have been unpopular in other respects in terms of not taking a security release seriously, and also not having the necessary choreography to try to get everybody actually speaking the new protocol. But there you have it. Sorry again that it's been a bit dramatic. Hopefully this was useful. Anything else on your side, Keegan?
Nope, I don't think so.
Brilliant. Let's crack on and ship this thing and tell everybody about the new disclosure deadline. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.